Hey everybody, Dave from Opposing the Matrix. How the heck are you? See my background? No, it's not a contrivance. It's the real background for the real house. um, it's just too cold to do a show out there, folks. I don't know. I'm getting older and more sensitive to the temperatures, both hot and cold, and um, having anemia doesn't help either. So Uh, anyway, I decided to do the show from in here, and hopefully the dogs will behave themselves. And if not, I've got Mr. Ultrasonic here that's going to help them to remain good dogs, hopefully. And we'll see how it works. So, anyway, happy Tuesday to you. We will not be doing a show on Thursday because it's New Year's, okay? However, we'll be ready to go on in January, the first Tuesday in January. So, uh, yeah. So, anyway, I hope you had a nice holiday season. If you celebrated Christmas, I hope you had a nice Christmas. If you celebrated Hanukkah, I hope you have had a nice Hanukkah. And yeah, we deserve nice things, don't we, folks? I mean, I know it sounds kind of like a pompous thing to say, but after all the crap we've put up with for the last uh, 4 years prior to this last year, and even before that, it's we deserve a break today. Uh, so, oh my goodness. Well, it looks like we're not getting into BitChute, and we're not getting into Kick tonight, but everything else is going pretty good, I guess. So I got to find out what's going on. Every once in a while that happens, and it's not good. It really isn't. So if you know anybody that's listening on one of those two formats, tell them to come on over to YouTube or Rumble or whatever, and they can catch us there, okay? My ideal dream would be that everybody goes to YouTube and Rumble, but you can't always get what you want. That's what the Rolling Stones said, and it's a fact of life too. So anyway, tonight we are going to be talking about some dumb bases. And you're going, well, what do you mean by dumb bases? Well, if you haven't been around for a while to hear me talk about them, it stands for Deep Underground Military Base, and there's a ton of them around, folks. Oh, I mean, tons and tons and tons and tons. I think it's like last count, like 160 in the United States alone, and around the world, there's an astronomical figure there. I don't even know what it was, but we are warned. Well, first of all, the reason I got into this is because I noticed that they had an earthquake in New Jersey, up in the Ramapo area, and yes, they have earthquakes there from time to time, but there was something peculiar about this earthquake. If you've studied the dumb bases and their destruction by the White Hats and other forces, um, you'll see that whenever one of them is destroyed, it's usually at 10 kilometers in depth. Okay, that's probably how deep they go. There's probably a standard that they all have to when they're constructing these places to no deeper than 10 kilometers, which is pretty darn deep. you know. Um, I don't have the figures here to figure it out right now in miles or feet, but anyway, yeah, it's pretty darn deep. And but then there are other explosions that are a little lighter than that. And the theory is that these facilities, you have your core, all right, that goes from the top to the bottom, but you also have feeder halls that go to it, okay? And many times when you see a large earthquake in an area, and then you see smaller earthquakes in the same area, it's the the feeder halls being destroyed. Okay, how are they destroying them? Well, in a variety of different ways, but the basic way that they're using is tactical nukes, because some of the things that live down in those depths, folks, are not pretty. They're pretty ugly, and usually weapons, like bullets and guns and maybe even bombs, might not have an effect against these things. But if you irradiate the place to 1,000,000 degrees for a brief second, these things tend to expire pretty quickly there. Um, as I said, I've talked about this subject many times before, and there's a scripture that says it's very curious too. It says, Have respect unto the covenant, for the dark places of the earth are filled or full of the habitations of cruelty. What the heck does that mean? Okay. And when you do a word search, a word study, it actually means the dark place of the earth, underground. Okay. And we also read other things in Scripture that, especially in Revelation, there's going to come a time when the people are going to be hide amongst the rocks, it says, and in the mountains, and pray on the rocks. Pray that the rocks will fall on them, because they don't want to be alive when Yeshua returns, because they know it ain't going to be a good time for them. So anyway, so there are some vague descriptions about these deep underground military bases and other things. They're used for a variety of different things. By the way, if you go to, let's see, I think on Rumble and on YouTube, I've placed a link to get to my Patreon page. And a lot of the articles that I have on there, you don't have to pay to get. I mean, you still have to join the Patreon group, but you can access a lot of things for free. There are some things that I would like to have some money for, but and there are other things that I wrote. Nothing, I'm not plagiarizing anybody or stealing from anybody, but so. But there's a work out there called the Dulcie book. That's what it's called. And it's a fantastic work. It really is. It goes into explain everything about Dulce, New Mexico, about the base that's down there, the underground military base, and the entities that work there and live there aside from humans, and what they do. And the deeper you go, the worse it gets. Um, so when it says for the dark places of the earth, when the deeper you go, the darker it gets, and I mean spiritually dark too. It's where experiments like uh, genetic experiments between species of earth animals and humans, and even crossbreeding between humans and aliens. From my understanding, is there's some hideous looking things that are down there that they've experimented with and created. Um, but and also there's how do I put this for? How do I say this without? Well, I just have to say it, I guess. There are there are places down in the lower reaches of Dulce and other bases also where they have vats of human body parts in there, and as it goes, the saying goes that they use the aliens, or they're not aliens, they're really fallen angels, but is disguised as aliens, but and they feed off of them, not necessarily off of chewing it or anything like that, but absorbing the hormones and stuff that are in the meat. Uh, you want to talk about adrenochrome? Well, these are the guys that do it. These the gray aliens especially. Says that they get high off of adrenochrome. Isn't that interesting? So do humans. Yeah. Oh well. Um, so I guess the experiments that don't work out or something get thrown in the vat, and later on, they all sit down for people stew. I guess I don't know. Uh, it's really hard to talk about stuff like that. It's nowadays it doesn't surprise me, and it doesn't take me by surprise, I should say, to know that goes on, because the cruelty that goes on human against human is bad enough, but when it comes to these angelic entities, these fallen angelic entities, and demons and everything else, some of the things that they're capable of is sheer horror. And so anyway, so there are sayings that we murmur all day long. We all have our little old wives' tales and stuff like that, uh, and the one statement that we say is when something is quite obvious, we say it's an understatement. Okay, uh, Obama is a thief. Well, that's an understatement. You know, that's the way it would be used. Uh, it's the title that's used to show of those statements. Although we do not speak it all day long, the rarity and rare. Oh, wait a minute, I'm all messed up here. We don't speak these things all day long, but But when we do, because of our linguistics and everything else, especially in the English language, it's a horror to people that are coming here to learn this language. And um, but we know that we know what it means, and so we have these they're kind of little code things, if you want to look at it that way. Um, so when we're taking a the title of our show tonight and looking at what we call deep underground military bases or DUMBs, um, we have to say, without a doubt, we have to say that's an understatement. Okay, that we have to be respectful of the covenant, which is the law, the Torah, and also the rest of Scripture. Um, and that the dark places of the earth are full of habitations of cruelty, which after you study this stuff, if you study it at any distance or excuse me, at any length, you'll see that this scripture to a T describes what's going on down in those places. Uh, Dulce's not the only one. There's only famous one. There's Area 51. I think there's another Area 53. Um, Montauk, Long Island, man, that's a big one. They've been doing experiments there for ages. Um, you name it. There's also another base in Utah, Dugway, I think it's called. Yeah, Dugway Proving Grounds. Well, that's all nice and everything. And what they supposedly do there is they make all these they make nerve gases and stuff like that there, and do some biological stuff. But what's interesting is that and I've done a show on this. Maybe we'll do it. The next show will be about this. Um, if you follow the road going out there, you see all this stuff that's there's like a power plant, there's a water plant, there's a electricity station, and you can tell that they're going away from Dugway Proving Grounds. Okay, uh, because there's nowhere to come from with that kind of stuff to go to Dugway, so it's got to be coming from Dugway and leaving. Okay, and we're talking going from the status point right there, going west. Okay, and if you follow the road, it goes into what used to be a proving ground for atomic tests. You can see scars on the ground from those tests, and you can all kinds of symbols on the ground too, which are kind of strange looking for that matter. But I'm sure they all had meanings, uh, even if they're even if they're not good meanings. But if you follow it, you go to this little mountain range there, and then you can see around the mountain range these little what would almost look like entrance points or areas where one could gain entrance into those places. And I'm convinced without a shadow of a doubt that there's a dumb there. Okay, without a shadow of a doubt, there's a deep underground military base there, and a lot of times they are focused around these military bases or installations or installments or whatever you want to call them. But and that's probably for a reason that you know that they know. It would be easier to get supplies for the place if there's a military base there nearby, and you could keep it within the government and not have the outsiders, the public coming in there and finding things out. So okay, so now these places are known by the good guys, and they're being destroyed on a regular basis by whatever means possible. And talk about that. Um, Now tonight we're going to talk about the evidences that these are real places, and we will discover that they need to be eliminated. And if by judging by what I've said already about them, you don't think they need to be eliminated, then I don't know. um, because when they're taking free people and abducting them and doing all kinds of weird experiments and making and being in league with these alien entities, this is not good. It's not good. It's not holy. It's not righteous. It's the opposite of all those things. And uh, so now when they there's a war that's going on within the military realm. Okay, and it has to do with a group called the White Hats, and now there's the Red Hats too, but they're more of a militant group. um, and they're always fighting against the deep state. Okay, and if you go to Real Raw News, I know a lot of people don't like Real Raw News. Okay, we've had that discussion before. But if you take 10% of what Real Raw News writes, it's still pretty scary. So so they're really big on when one of these places is taken down. For instance, I think it was a couple of years ago, they found a couple of cloning labs and took them down right away, and took the technology out of there, and even later on uh, absconded with one of the doctors that was involved in setting it all up and all the experiments and all the science behind it. Uh, so they're starting to learn more about the cloning process and stuff, and probably by now they're using it themselves to play the same game, but in a nicer manner, so to speak, I guess. But so this war is, like I said, has been going on for a while, and it's run primarily by the U.S. Navy and the U.S. Marine Corps, and they've set up operations well all over the place, but their main hub that I can see is down in Guantanamo in Cuba. Uh, they're conducting military tribunals there and getting rid of a lot of these characters that have been got should have been gotten rid of a long time ago. Um, Now, when you read their articles, like one of them was Anthony Fauci, is executed. Well, and a week later, you see Anthony Fauci talking on some format on the internet or on TV or something, and you're going, well, which is true? Was he killed, or is that? Well, again, we go back to the cloning labs. Okay, they're supposedly pretty adept when it comes to cloning now. The deep state is, and they can crank them out left and right. And so what they do is they make these clones, and um, they put them in a condition where they have to listen to and absorb everything that person is about. In other words, if they did a clone of Bill Clinton, let's make some humor out of this. They did a clone of Bill Clinton. They'd have to teach him to be a philanderer, a sexaholic, and everything else that you could think of that Bill Clinton was. Um, and he'd have to have a genuine fear of Hillary, but doesn't everybody? Um, so they okay, so they're making these clones in order to replace these people that are being executed and stuff, and I don't see that it's an impossibility. Okay, I think the technology that our government has is light years ahead of what we see and we know and we do. Okay. Um, for instance, that new what was it, F-47 that came out? Supposedly they've had the blueprints and the plans to build that for 20 years past, and now it's just they're just starting to crank it out and get it out. So it's when it comes to things like that, there's probably stuff that they have that we'll never know of. First of all, um, and when we do find out about it, it's going to be like new technology to us, but it's going to be like 30 years behind for the developers and the government. So anyway, yeah, I was talking about Dugway. Uh, so Dugway is another one of those places. Like I said, Area 51 is supposedly there's something under Mount Shasta. Okay, under Denver Airport. That's supposed to be a biggie. Um, oh, where else? I haven't heard of one being here, but I have no doubt that there's probably one underneath Roswell, New Mexico. I know that there's one, Alamogordo, in the Alamogordo area of New Mexico. White Sands, exactly, is where it's supposed to be. And you know what I thought was curious back in 2005, I went down to Roswell to go to all the events that showed that these things were not extraterrestrial. It was put on by Guy Malone. It's called Ancient of Days, and it was a really good. Guy and I have our differences, but when it comes to putting things together, the guy's a master. He really is. And So he put this together, and we had speakers like Bill Schnoblin down there. Oh man, David Flynn, uh, Ray Balthauser, I think was there. Maybe not. Um, uh, Richard Dolan was there, and oh man, who's the other one? Oh, there were several people there that if I mentioned their names, you know who they were. But so we went down there, and David Flynn had a theory, and he developed the theory using sacred geometry. Now he didn't condone sacred geometry, but he knew that that the enemy uses it. So he figured maybe if he used it, he can find out some of the stuff that the enemy was doing. Uh, he found out by using there are certain numbers that are constants. One's 33, another one's 1.47, and there are certain stars and stuff that are key to when things are done and how things happen in this occult sort of environment. And well, anyway, David figured out using this mathematics that if we went to the desert outside of Roswell to a certain area, that we would be able to find the place where the actual crash happened back in 1947. David wasn't too hep on the actual crash sites being the actual crash sites. Uh, so ragtag group of people. You know, I had rented an SUV up in Albuquerque when we landed there, and David rented some kind of rice mobile. I don't know, Mitsubishi or something, and they can only go so far with that. It was starting to bottom out. The roads are getting pretty ruddy and stuff, and so we put all the equipment and everybody piled into the SUV, and we kept going. And David had Mark Flynn had the GPS device in his hands, and we got to where we went close. Now, if we would have been a little more astute, we could have parked and just walked about maybe 10 minutes and been in this area. But we ended up hiking about an hour and a half to get to where we had to go. And actually, two interesting things happened on there on that hike. David, or actually Mark Flynn, worked for the government. I can't remember what his status was, but it had to do some kind of scientific deal. But he had two devices with him actually that were looking at GPS. And the one that he was using primarily, we were walking, and all of a sudden he stops and he goes, "That's weird." And I said, "What's the matter?" He says, "Well, we lost all the satellites." Now, this thing was supposedly tracking 19 satellites, and all of a sudden it blinks out. No satellite coverage. Okay. Strange, very strange. So then after a minute or so, all of a sudden this thing pops back on. Bam, all the satellites are there again. So we walked a little farther, and the same thing happened again. We lost the satellites, and Mark said, "This is really unusual. This never ever happens." So that was one of the things that showed us that maybe we were on the right track. Okay. Um, Now another thing that happened was now we were quite a ways out in the desert, and if you looked around, you could see for miles and miles and miles. And there were no communications towers out there whatsoever. Usually especially with cell phones, you could see towers, I don't know, within a 10-mile radius, you might see 5 towers, because there's different carriers and stuff. But there were no towers anywhere. This is like out in the boondoggles, desert of New Mexico. Yet I had a signal on my phone, had 2 bars. The only thing I could figure out is that since there was nothing around, maybe there was something underneath us that was generating the ability to be able to make a phone call out of there, and that was strange. I was like, where in the hell is that signal coming from? And I don't know, but it was there. And even Mark couldn't figure it out. He says, I don't know. So I kind of pointed down like this, and he goes, yeah, maybe, yeah. So we had kind of a nice time out there. Uh, David explained, and I have the video, and that also is on Patreon. You can watch it if you want, and where David explains how he got the figures and everything, and that 1.47, I think it's 1.47, very interesting number because now I don't know how true this is, but I've heard it said that you know how NASA has windows for launches and stuff like that. I never could figure out why it had windows for launches, and I don't know. And then one day I heard this and I went, okay, now that explains it. NASA will not, as far as I can tell, and I've heard this from several different sources, NASA will not launch a rocket into space unless the star Sirius is 1.47 degrees above the horizon. Okay, I'll take that to the bank and see what we can get for it. Uh, that is truly bizarre, and I have no doubt that it's true. I just, there's just some things that click. It's like got to be true. Um, of course, I'm going to look into things, and as far as I can tell, from looking into it, it's the truth. Um, so anyway, let's see. I got way off on a rabbit trail in this one. Way off. Um, oh yeah, deep underground nuclear base, military bases. Now, a lot of times when you read an account of alien abduction, again, there are no aliens; they're fallen angels and demons and stuff like that. Um, it seems like the people are always taken. Well, they're either in a ship or they're taken. A lot of times, they're taken to like an underground base, uh, and that's where experiments and stuff are conducted on. I have no doubt that maybe one of those bases is Dulce, um, and that they're taken there and having things performed on them and then dropped back off at home, so to speak. Um, so it's totally weird. It really is. Now, if you look around, I'd like to get on Google Earth and look at oddities. Okay, and I know it's probably it seems like a boring thing to do to some of you, and maybe it is. I don't know, but and I like to look for hidden things, and I found a couple of them off the coast of California, down around be north of Los Angeles, north of Malibu. There's a Marine Corps base there, and I can't remember for the life of me right now what it is. Anyway, or Navy base, that's it. And if you go out to sea and a little bit south, under the water there, and I'm talking about not very far out, maybe about 20 miles, that far, 10 miles. Um, if you were to go underwater there and look, there's actually this can't be a natural thing, folks. It can't. You look at it and it actually looks like it has columns, okay, with openings to go in, almost like a whole Greek temple or something is what it reminded me of. And so there's no way this thing was natural or is natural. And it's funny because I've mentioned it and other people have mentioned it. And ever since they have, Google has blurred it out. You can't find it anymore. But I got the pictures. Because Google Earth, believe it or not, does show good pictures of underwater things. Okay, so there's that one. And it's also rumored, I don't know how true this is, that there's actually what do you say, a water connection that goes from the Pacific Ocean all the way up to Walker Lake in Nevada, which is kind of around Carson City in that area, south of Carson City. Uh, and why would the Navy have a submarine base out in the desert? And they do. It's clear. It's clear as day. It says they're running a sign out there. Or it used to anyway. Uh, but if you go down further, down around Long Beach, and you look with Google Earth, and it's south of Long Beach actually, but it's in that little curved area that they call a coastline there. If you go farther down, you're in San Diego and stuff like that. But Los Angeles comes out. There's a little bit there, and then it curves in, and then goes straight down. Anyway, if you look in that area, I can't remember exactly what town it's. Anyway, if you look in that area, it's very clear underwater that there's a geometric shape under there with right angles. I mean, perfect right angles. Like a big square building, as a matter of fact, that's underwater. Um, again, cannot be natural. Nature doesn't produce things like that very often, anyway. But yeah, check it out. Go look at it yourself. I think that's still on there. It's not been blurred out yet. But So there's real interesting stuff around the world. So, so anyway, yeah, like I said, there's a war that's going on, and it's between the white hats and the deep state, and we all, we hate the deep state, and we hope that the white hats win, and they seem to be doing a pretty good job at it. There's a general, I think his last name is Smith, that's running everything down in from down in Guantanamo. They also have a couple other bases the White Hats do. One of them's in is it Guam? Yeah, yeah, Guam. And there's another one that's hidden really, really good. Uh, if you again, I've done an article. There's an article about it on my delusionresistance.org. But down in the Argentine part of Terra del Fuego, there's a little Navy base there, and it says on there, it says, not on there, but if you read about it, it says it's been leased to the United States Navy. Okay. And you never see Navy ships there or anything else. To be frank, you never see, I can't find a prison thing there anyway, but everything's underground these days, so why not that? Um, because I know that the white hats are a lot of times are afraid that or concerned, I should say is a better word, that they're going to be attacked, and they have been a couple of times actually. A couple of missions have gone against them in Guantanamo in Cuba, and they've been thwarted, of course. But the threat exists. But having this thing way down in Terra del Fuego, I mean, uh, short of being in Antarctica, it's a pretty hidden place and pretty good too. But you can find it if you look hard enough. Okay, so if you read the book, the Dulce book, like I said, you're going to find out some of the things that they do. And there was, oh man, there was a couple of guys. One of them was stationed there, and his job was to run the security cameras, I do believe, which meant that he had access not only to the first floor but to the floors below it. And but anyway, back in the 1990s, I think it was. There's a fellow named well, there was a fellow named Rob Schneider. What a heck of a time to forget his name. Uh, I'll get to it. But anyway, he was very famous. He made the circuit a lot of times, and I was trying to tell people about Dulce and the things that go on there. And according to him, he used to build these tunnels or be involved in building these tunnels for the government. And they were boring a hole down in New Mexico, and they went down only so far, and they hit a void. Well, they needed to find what was going on in that void, so they sent Ron down with quite a few soldiers, and they were confronted by a couple of very tall gray aliens. And Rob was so shocked when he said he drew his pistol and just shot, and he killed one of them. And the other one had I guess it was like a kind of like a laser beam or something, or a pulse weapon. And if you look at Rob's hand, he's missing these three fingers right here. These three. These three right here. Okay. Pinky, ring finger, and middle finger. And he attributes their being gone to that, them being destroyed in that fight. Anyway, he was saved by one of the Delta Force or whatever was down there, who threw him on the elevator and made it go up. I guess the guy lost his life to save him. But yeah, a lot of guys died that day. But it's rumored, of course, that back in the late 50s, early 60s, President Eisenhower had a meeting with these aliens, these grays, and signed an agreement with them. And in that agreement, it states that they can occupy a base. Okay, and it must have really snowballed because they're everywhere. But they can occupy a base, and they can in return for technology that they give us, because you got to admit, technology's exploded in the last 30 years. Um, Exploded might even not even, it's an understatement. Okay. Um, but and also the aliens or the fallen angels, whatever you want to call them, were granted the permission to take a number of humans as for experimental purposes, to or research purposes and stuff like that. However, the government found out that they were taking more than they were supposed to, and that they have violated the agreement. But at the same time, the government wants all that technology, and they're not going to. In other words, they don't care about me and you. We're or fodder for the cannon, so to speak, or fuel for something. I can't remember what that term is, but anyway, they that agreement was made, and it's been recertified a couple different times because the government knows that it can't win against them. I mean, the government has to know that these things are spiritual and not from other planets. Just by the exhibitions that they put on, and uh, so a fear has caused them to basically kind of kowtow to the aliens and say, okay, well, whatever you want to do, it's okay with us. And dang it, no, it's not okay with us. I don't like that. I don't want that happening. I've dealt with these creatures before, and I've rebuked them, and they've stayed away from since then. But um, so that's one of the things that we used to do when we were younger, when this ministry was younger. We used to minister to people that were victims of alien abduction. However, things have changed. About 10 years ago, things started to change where people weren't scared of it anymore, of alien abductions. As a matter of fact, they wanted it. And be careful what you ask for, because you'll get it. Um, so they, uh, but when we were helping them and to overcome it, we found out that the name of Jesus, or Yeshua, as we say in Hebrew, or if you're in Italy, it would be Gesu, um, or Jesus in the Spanish culture and in the Portuguese. Um, we found out that that name thwarts these things, and it's been quite interesting because I remember when I was being attacked. I was a believer for many years, and I was still getting attacked because I was involved in fighting these. I call them bastards, just because that's what they are. Um, but he let me see, where am I going with this? It's so we were involved in that, and getting helping people to know that basically I used to use an analogy, and it takes a minute to say it, but hey, it's only time, right? How are we doing on time, by the way? Oh, we've gone for 39 minutes. Wow, I've flacked my jowls for 39 minutes. Um, and the analogy goes like this, okay? The story, the parable, however you want to put it. Um, Basically, that humanity, people in general, are like an orphan. Okay, now being an orphan, you don't have parents anymore. A lot of times, you're stuck in a home with other orphans and stuff like that, an orphanage. Um, and so, as the story goes, uh, this orphan becomes friends with. Actually, this orphan is picked on in school because he's an orphan, and those kind of bullies like to pick on the weak and the weary. And so one day, he becomes friends with another kid in school, and comes to find out that the other kid is the sheriff's son. Okay. Um, so now, when the bully comes, he says, better be careful because I know the sheriff's son. You know, and and I'll just go to him and tell him what you did and everything. Yeah. So anyway, the bullies kind of start leaving him alone for a little while. Um, and this kid's really happy because of this. And this could be compared to when you're not a believer in Yeshua and you still use his name to thwart these attacks. Okay. Now, as the story continues, the kid he's going on and he's having a peaceful thing, having fun with his new friend, the sheriff's son. Um, But then it starts up again because the bully's like, well, what the heck can he really do? He can't do anything, and aside from the fact that yes, he could get a hold of the sheriff's son, get a hold of the sheriff. Anyway, um, so he uh, he starts getting picked on again, and the sheriff's son sees this, and the sheriff's son really was taken to this kid. He's like, man, he's almost like a brother to him, and he says, man, he says, you know what? He walked up to his father, and his father, sheriffs make pretty good money, and uh, so he's not very well off, but a little well off, and so finances would not be a concern when it came to adopting another kid. So the um, the sheriff's son starts putting a bug in his father's ear. Says, this guy is my friend. He's a really good kid. He says, I'd really like to have him as a brother. He's like a brother to me now. So why not just finalize that? Can you adopt him, Dad? Well, the dad thinks about it. It's not a step you take very lightly. And I'm not mentioning a mother because in this story, I don't know, there could be a mother, and or the father could be wifeless, or trying to say a widower or something like that. But so the kid keeps on his father. Oh yeah, well, what about well, let's call him Stephen. What about adopting Stephen, father? It'd be a really wonderful thing to do. Well, finally, the guy starts thinking, this might be a good thing to do. I'd be a protector for the kid, and and he has nobody, and that must be really lonely at Christmas and on birthdays and stuff like that. So yeah, so he ends up adopting Stephen. Okay, um, so the bullies come up one day and say, you know what, you better leave me alone because I'm not just a friend of the sheriff's son now. I am the sheriff's adopted son. And the bullies actually get a fear in them, and the kid goes, yeah, if you're messing with me, now you're messing with the sheriff, okay? Because he's my dad. And so they decide to go over and pick on somebody else. So going back to the spiritual realm, with that, it's it could be akin to somebody using the name of Yeshua or Jesus to thwart the attacks. But after a while, the enemy gets, he's not stupid. Uh, gets smart and says, you know what? I'll just shoot the breeze and go anyway. And while the name of Yeshua still hurts him, he still manages to have some kind of effect on a kid or on any of us. Um, so we, we reach a part in our lives where we're tired of being picked on and stuff, and we start studying about Yeshua or Jesus and find out that he died for mankind, and that he was all God and all man, and it really appeals to us, and we start thinking, well, you know what, maybe if I knew this Jesus or had a relationship with him, that this would stop, the bullying would stop. So, if the person gets down on her knees and says, Yeshua, please come into my life and protect me and guide me and keep me safe and um, save my soul, and because of you, let me have an eternity in heaven. So, of course, Yeshua honors that, and the Father honors it. So, the next time that the kid comes up, like I said, he said, "You better leave me alone. My father's a sheriff now," and explains to the bully. And the bully says, "Well, you know what? You're right. I'm gonna go bother somebody else." And that's what happens when you come to faith in Yeshua and you've been harassed for years by these entities. You establish a line in the sand. You say, you know what? You can't do this anymore because I belong to Yeshua, and he's gonna be really pissed if you keep messing with me. And so anyway, that's the analogy I like to use, and maybe you feel free to use it if you want to. Uh, but it's it's a fact, that his name stopped it. Now, real quick, the other day I was looking for a video to use for tonight, and I came across a video of, and it's about 3 hours long, so there's no way I'm going to show it on here, okay? But I can tell you about it, and I think I haven't posted a link to it yet on Patreon, but I will. And so what happens in this story is that there's a guy, and he's interrogator for the military, and he's worked at places like Guantanamo and other places in Afghanistan and in Iraq, trying to break these people that so that they'll give up information. So as the government calls them, a really secret division of the government says, "Hey, we need your help. We know what you did and how good you are, and we need you to help us." So uh, they bring him, and right away they put a sack over his head so he can't see where he's going until he gets to where they're going. And that involves a long drive, a plane flight, another long drive, and then finally being where they are at. And so he he gets inside the place, and he can take the hood off, and long story short, he's taken down to this entity that happened to come through a wormhole that was created, not wormhole, a portal, that's a better term, that was created when they were doing some experiments with, oh, like they do at CERN, particle collision and stuff like that. Using it to open up doorways, and they did, and this thing came through with three others, and I guess, or two others. That the other two died, but he had managed to adapt this one that was downstairs in the basement part of the facility, and he a very mocking thing, which most demons are, and fallen angels also. But finally, the guy gets an edge. He says, "Dogs really having an enjoyable time out here." Um, he says he gets a little annoyed with the thing, and he says, "Oh, for the love of God!" And the thing recoils. It goes in almost like a shock, and uh, very painful. It looked like, and he said that before the talking resumed again, it looked like it was in a fetal position, laying on the floor, like it was really hurt. And and so the thing did say, he said, that name is something that we don't like mentioned, and so he goes, "What, the name of Jesus Christ?" Well, the thing still has a little bit of um, uh, a tick when he hears that name, so to speak. Um, and so he, see where I'm going with this. Okay, I have to make sure I'm still live on Facebook. Um, so he, let me gather my thoughts here. So he knows that he can use this as a weapon against this thing. So he wants this thing to explain to him why that hurts him. And so the thing explains to him, that we were there back when he doesn't call him Yeshua or Jesus. He says when I can't remember the name he used, but when he did what he did, we did not expect it, and it just really changed the whole scheme of things. Uh, Now, or back then, and even now, it has changed to where it wasn't supposed to be. Now it's not so the way it was supposed to be, and so he says when you mention that name, it brings back all that. Watching him uh, die, but not really be dead, but descend into hell and take captive captivity captive, which is what he did. And and he says ever since that time things haven't been the same, and ever since that time, he says you people, meaning believers in Yeshua, use that term to. He said it's spoken millions of times a day all around the world, and so anyway, it was just for me. It was confirmation that what we were doing was correct, and that uh, what we knew to be true in the way of protecting yourself and everything was right. And so I'm convinced, for the most part, that event really happened. Okay, but toward the end, there was a chaplain that was involved there, a good guy, uh, and the interrogator decided he wanted out of there, But the chaplain somehow downloaded all the information, all the speeches that happened between him and the creature, and everything I could possibly find on the whole thing, and gave it to him, so that when he left, he had it. So he ends by saying, this uh, my life is a danger. I'm in hiding. I've moved so many times, and I'm tired of moving, and uh, so yeah, it's been pretty interesting though to watch. And like I said, I will upload a link to that on the page, Patreon page. So where am I going here? I wanted to, if it's okay with you, and I guess it has to be because it's my show. Um, I want to show you now these dumb bases when they're blown up. Remember, I said that they're using tactical nukes to do it for the most part. However, sometimes what they do is to make sure that the thing is inoperable, they flood it. Okay, and I don't care what kind of creature is down there; it's not going to be able to survive unless it's a fish. It's not going to be able to survive that kind of injury. So they flood them, and so a lot of times when this one video we're going to watch, you're going to see that they equate the weather many times with the destruction of these things. The theory being that the heavy thunderstorms and the torrential rains actually help to flood the area, or the base, the underground base, and help in its destruction and the death of anything that's still living down there. So yes, you'll see that, and but another thing, it's not on this video as far as I can tell. I've listened to it a couple of times, but it's what they said was the it's usually when you see the explosions, and you look at an earthquake map, it'll always tell you how deep it was. Okay, but and they range anywhere from 100 kilometers all the way down to 1 kilometer, and or all the way up to 1 kilometer, I should say. And they explain that when you see 10 kilometers, it usually means that it was a base that's being destroyed or has been destroyed. And but the interesting thing that they showed, and I did find it in one instance, is that sometimes the explosions or the earthquakes happen above land, above the earth. We're talking maybe 5,000 feet or 4,000 or whatever. But you'll see the earthquake, and it'll give the depth, but sometimes it's like 0, or sometimes it's like minus 30 or something like that. And what I've been told, and what I understand and I believe, is that that is when these things are destroyed, when however they're trying to flee, whether it be in a ship or whatever, that ship is destroyed, and it's right above ground when they're trying to get away. So that explains the earthquake above the ground. So anyway, let's go ahead and look at this video, and then we'll see afterwards how we're looking. And let's see, because we've been on for almost an hour. So I'm gonna, when I turn the video on, I'm gonna advance it to what did I say here? 3 minutes and about 12 seconds, because before that she's just talking about the weather, and it really doesn't have anything to do with it, as far as I can tell, with the destruction of a base. But I guess the weather is a pertinent subject to a lot of people. But okay, so give me a chance, okay, and I'm going to start this thing up and move it up to that time, and then we'll be able to enjoy it. Okay, here we go.
Well, good afternoon, Restored Republic Patriots. This is Wendy from News Force. And
There, it should
coming
start
back
good.
into the screen. All right, so we have a lot of activity, but if you notice, it's activity that's all yesterday, pretty much. Now, we know that there's a real pounding going on right here. All right, just there in Riverside across the Mexican border, okay? We've got some dumbs being blown up. This was 56 minutes ago, okay? in Holmes Garden, California. And that was a 1 km. Okay, so that was a vein off of a main, but that's pretty close to the surface. 1.1 blast that blew up at. Let's go ahead and take a look here. All right. We want our satellite so we can see. All right, so it's just southwest of Riverside, you guys. All right, almost straight south. Here, there's home gardens coming up right there. Okay. Let's get a look-see here. Let's get in close and see. Oh, there's our typical sand plant. Guys, everybody, I've talked to you about sand plants and these dumbs being near a sand plant, always near a sand plant. And if you don't understand what that means, go over to Dumbs and Underground War.
You won't have to go over there because I'll tell you what it means. What it means, folks, is that those are the tailings. Those are the dirt and the rocks and everything else that has been pulverized into a sand and brought up from underneath so that they can have room for the tunnels and the other cavities that they have underground. So basically, it's the waste material that they're storing and hiding it in the auspices of being a salt or a sand plant. Here you go.
On Telegram and start diving into their stuff, and you'll start to understand why these dumbs are near very specific areas. So it's just right out in the middle of no man's land. But it is backed up to this sand plant right here. There you go. All right. These sand plants are very important and come into play, but it's really a deep dive to understand how the sand plants come into play here. All right, so let's pull out here. And let's head on up to Seattle area. I have something pretty special to show you. We hit a 10 km. So here is Seattle right over here. Okay.
Okay, folks, this is the 10 kilometers, okay? And I'm telling you, if you get on any kind of earthquake program and look at the depth, there are going to be some that are 10 kilometers. And you think that would be a kind of an odd number, that, there'd be 10, 12, 15, 30, But when you see a bunch of 10s and showing up, it's a sign that something is askew. Here you go.
Seattle area. Okay. And we are going to go to the west of it. And there is our dome. I'm very excited to show this to you because we all celebrate many less people being harmed when you see something like this. So it's a 10 km. Woo! That is a main tunnel we blasted apart. And that's great. That means that area is very much protected now by anything nefarious going on anymore, and the earth can just kind of absorb back into itself after these tunnels have been blown up, and go back to nature again. Okay, let's go on in close here and let's see what's going on here in our dome. All right, so you can see there's this through near Harbor City and Westport, guys, right in through there. This dome is. Okay, let's go on in closer so we can. Okay, Pacific Paradise, Ocean Shores. Look at that, it's in a parking lot. It's in a parking lot and it's not identifying. There it is. Western Union's in there. I'm going to say it's a shopping mall of some sort for groceries or something. There, it's right on that guy's car. Okay, so there's your dome right there, your 10 km. All right, let's pull back out again. And let's go on over here. It's just to the north of Maine. It is across the line, but I wanted to show you this because it's another 10 km, guys. Woot, woot. We love those 10 kms. I search for them, and every time I see a 10 km, I can sleep a little bit better at night. It's very exciting to see them finally get the main tunnel after they've worked so hard on veins. Okay, so let's just back out here and switch it over to terrain so that we can see, okay? So there's Quebec City, and you guys, this is just outside St. Pasquale, and I wanted to show you guys this. Let's just get in a little bit closer, and then we'll hit our dome. All right, let's take a look-see here. Okay. My apologies here. This is a different dome, but it was blown up 16 hours ago. Let's take a look and we'll head over to our 10 km. Okay. So like I said, all right, it's just to the north and to the east of Quebec City. And that was a 13 km. And if you don't know what that means, that's a vein off of a main tunnel. And basically we call it a vein because anything off of a 10 km is a vein off of a main tunnel. And that was blown up at a 2.2 blast. So really not that strong. Okay, let's get back on our map here. And let's just move to the south so we can see. You can see there's been some action in here. Let's just run over here to New Brunswick quick and see what's going on here. Okay, so this is a 5 km vein off of a main and tunnel, and it's at a 1.6 military signature blast. So let's take a look on our map where that's at. Okay. Get our satellite up here. All right. Nepotogin, I'm going to say. So it's to the west of Nepotogin and just a little bit to the south. Let's get a look-see here. Okay, it's right out in the middle of no man's land. Okay, in the trees, of course, because there's nothing around there. There is the river I see that rolls through there. So let's back out here and head on over to our 10 km. All right, so this is just outside of Montreal, you guys, to the north and to the west, okay? And this right here is our 10 km. Ding, ding, ding. So exciting. So thankful to the military. Thank you. So that was a 10 km main tunnel. I love saying that. And of course, sometimes they don't show us what they blasted it at. So it must have been a pretty good blast. Because like tomorrow you'll see it at 3.5. If you see it at 3.5, that's not the true blast. More than likely it was between 6 and 7.5 would be the blast usually when they're not showing us that. So very nice job. All right, let's take a look on the map where that was at here. All right, looks like out in the middle of no man's land. Now that looks like a golf course. Wonder if it'll say it. Just off of 329, guys. And I'm going to try Saint Agathe des Monts, okay? And we have here a golf course. It looks like, if I'm correct. It's an awfully big golf course. Let me just zoom in a little bit closer so we can have a look-see. I don't think that's a golf course, guys. I'm not sure what's going on there. I think it's just a part of the terrain. You can see that there's all sorts of different names. If you're from that area, please feel free to share what's going on in this area. It certainly did look like a golf course. Anyways, okay, let's back out again. And we'll stop by a couple of places on our way across the nation here back to California. So I'm showing you guys right now just north of Memphis. There's been some action going on. And there's just a few dumbs. The latest one was about yesterday afternoon, which is near this New Madrid, okay? And there's a couple more here. Let's just go on in close and take a peek. Okay, right out in the field. Okay, and that one was 3 days ago, and it was a 9 km. So it was a vein off of a main. And obviously, they had some work to do in this area because you see a few more. And that was a 1.4 blast, guys, okay? So let's go ahead and have a look-see again here.
Breaking here real quick. I think you have to have um, a set of steel ones to put a any kind of underground military base that close to the Madrid fault. Um, I don't know. I wonder if when it was taken out, if using the tactical nukes was considered a danger to setting off the New Madrid fault. So anyway, uh, I was piping in. I don't think that I would build a dumb base there, but whatever. Okay, let's continue.
We are going to head right over here to Chattanooga. Let's take a look. See what happened here in Chattanooga. So it's just to the west, almost straight across, a little bit to the north. This tunnel is from Dalton, if you live in that area. So this was a 13 km, so it was a vein off of a main tunnel, and that was a 2.2 blast. Okay, let's go get a look-see and see if it's around anything at all. Okay, here we go. So Tunnel Hill, West Side Park, in that area, and it's called near Dogwood Church. All right, guys, if you live in that area. Ripcord Road and Adams Road. Oh, look at that. Right on that guy's property, right in the trees. Looks like he's got a nice little junkyard conglomeration of junk. So if you live at 356 North Addis Road, you had yourself a dump right underneath you. A pretty big one, too. So there we go. Okay, let's go back up to our map here and get out further. And let's start moving towards the west. Okay, here we go. All right, so here we are back in the Oklahoma area. You guys know how bad they got hit about 10 days ago with storms and stuff like that, okay? It was pretty bad. And those storms was the fighting between the white hats and the black hats against FEMA and HARP, with them using HARP. And you can see why now that's why I tell you guys, let's get a couple of days out and you can really see what's going on. So there was a heck of a fight in that area. So the most recent that I can see here was 2 hours ago in Wayne, Oklahoma. And that was a 3 km vein off of a main. And they blew that at a very low blast of 1.1. Still signature to the military there. So let's get on in close and see what we can see. Okay. So Paul's Valley, it's just to the north of Paul's Valley, just off of Interstate 35. There's Wayne. We're coming in, and look as we come closer. See the work they did? They blew up another dump right there on 144. So here's the dump we're looking at. Okay. And then here's the other dump right here. See, sometimes you got to go in closer, guys. It's deceptive. You go in closer and you'll find that there's a whole bunch more. So it looks like there's this American Directional Technology Incorporated. I wonder what they're all about. Interesting. Okay, so let's go up here and zoom in. All right, so it's right in the middle of a farmer's field across from a farm. Okay. And of course, we have water there. There's some water. Interesting. So that was a 3 km. Okay. So that was a vein off of a main, and it was only a 1.1 blast. So there's a good chance nobody even felt anything out there. Okay, let's run down here and take a look at this one that showed up as we got closer. There it is. Okay. All right, here we go. We're going in close. Okay, you can see there's farms around there. Lots of nice big acreage. Very nice. Very pretty around there. All right, let's see what happened with this dump. All right. Say, Wendy, quit messing around. I can't help it. I love looking around at this stuff. So this was a 6 km. All right. So that's a vein off of a main tunnel. And that blast, I haven't seen that low of a blast in a long time. It was just absolutely next to nothing. So it was probably a vein off of a vein off of a vein like that. Not very big, guys. Okay, let's run down here to San Antonio and take a look. We know there's been a lot of action down there, okay? A lot of dumps being blown up, and I've been showing you over the last couple of weeks how active it's been. Let's take a look at this. So the latest one I see is 2 days ago. So it's been pretty quiet there. And, ooh, look there. We landed ourselves a third 10 km. Awesome. Go us. All right, look at that, guys. Awesome. So we have ourselves a 10 km. I love saying that. And that was at only a 1.5 blast. Very interesting. I find that very interesting that it was just so low on that 10 km. And if you notice the other one over across the just north of it a few days ago, we had a good sized 10 km that got blown up. I can't find it on the map for you again. Like I said, sometimes they take them down and other times they leave them up and let us see. It just depends on what's going on with the military as far as your maps and stuff go of how much they let us see. But I do see that that is gone. Okay, so let's pull on out again. Let's head over here. Let's just have a look-see. I'm not going to go into this. Here's Big Spring I was telling you guys about on the last one. And I was talking to you about it because it's such a small town. But you guys, here's Big Spring right here, okay? And they've been going on this for a very, very long time in this area. As I understand it, right around this little tiny town called Big Spring, okay? Look at how tiny that is. There's just not much action there, all right? It's a small town, all right? And, of course, we see there's a state park right in the middle of it. There's a lot of action, a lot of dumps and stuff in this area throughout the year that have been blown up. A lot of action there. All right, let's head over here. Just to the east of Juarez and also what you guys would know here in the restored republic as El Paso, okay? And I want to just talk to you for a minute. Let me just change my over to terrain. So if you remember, those storms went through there the other day, and there's been multiple, let's just outline multiple tornadoes and really bad weather they suffered this week. So here's Texas and the line, okay? And if you guys remember, I was showing you the counties. And then it was like this, okay? Maybe out a little bit further. But generally speaking, this is the area where the really bad stuff was happening with the weather. And now you can see why. Once again, when we get down the road, you can see what's going on, okay? Look at that. That's a lot of activity there. So I would say the county, if I could see the line right, the county separates like this. All right. And there's the line Texas right there for Texas. Okay, look at that, you guys. Now do you see why there was fighting? Okay, that's why there was fighting, is because of what we're looking at right now, all right? And I'll tell you what, this is incredible to see. It's always nice a couple of days down the line to confirm that our men fought for something as awesome as getting rid of the tunnels where they were doing horrible things to our children, to our DNA. I mean, they were doing really bad stuff, guys. And if you don't know about what was going on down there, just start looking up adrenochrome and that'll get you started. Okay? All right. So, let's just go on and pick one of them at least. This looks like it. Yep. So it was 2 hours ago in Toya. Okay. They have been working on Toya in that area for a long time, guys. Okay. So this particular one was a 6 km and it was blown up at a 1.5. So there you go. Let's just zoom in here for the heck of it and take a look. So like I figured, out in the middle of no man's land, but what do we have going on here? So we have some roads and stuff out here. There's our dam right there, but there's a whole bunch of them in that area, it looks like. It looks like there's two. I'm sorry. There's two. I just can't get to that one in back of it. So you can see there's a road that goes by it. All right. Seeing this right here. Pay attention to terrain. Pay attention to like roads, and you're looking for sand plants or water, or for it to be in a tree line. These are very signature to the dams that get blown up. All right, let's head over here to Las Vegas. I just want to show you this dam that they blew up and the little bit of activity that's happening there, and then we'll go ahead and head over to Japan and Taiwan and take a look. All right, so we're coming into Vegas. It's just to the south of Vegas, all right? Out in the Canyon National Conservation Area, all right? Here we go. Let's go in just real close, and then I'll tap on it. So here we have here, looks like another sand plant, not plant, but an area where they do have sand moving in and out. Henderson Fire Department is right on top of it. I find that interesting. Okay, so there's that dam there. So it's just outside of Las Vegas. I haven't seen a lot of activity outside of Las Vegas in a while, so that's why out of all the dams you're seeing, I'm picking certain ones. All right, let's come on back out again. And let's just stretch up the coastline here. Take a look. By the way, I'll be talking more about these tomorrow or the next day up here in Montana. They've been really doing some serious action here. And I'll get to talking about more tomorrow on the next Dumbs and Underground about that area. Okay. So I just want to run you up the coastline of California so you can get an aerial. All right, here's San Francisco, guys. San Francisco. I just want you to see all of the work that our military has done in just the last 5 to 7 days at most. Isn't that gloriously beautiful? And that's just a week, guys. It's incredible. Our military is going to town. This is the war right here, and we are winning it. Every single one of these circles that you see here represents our freedom from the deep state Zionist Kabbalists, okay? Each one of these circles represents a little bit more evil, the darkest of evil that is gone on our planet forever, never to return again. Okay, I just wanted to give you a little look. Let's back out. Let's go on over and take a look at what's going on over here in Taiwan and Japan. Okay, scooting on over, letting our map fill in. There we go. Okay, let's get on in closer. We're going to go to Japan first and take a look. Okay, guys, here is Japan right here. All right, and if you don't know, here's China over here, okay? All right, so let's go back. Look at all that action, you guys. All right, so they want to talk about on mainstream media about the war being, up here, and that Russia's fighting Ukraine and all that kind of stuff. Oh no, that's the look here, not there. They're trying to get you to look over there so you don't see what's going on right here, okay? Because this truly is the real war that we are watching. And we are liberating ourselves, all right? Our militaries together around the world have been working together for years, blowing these things up. And we have our finales in certain places. And Japan is definitely a finale right now, guys. It's absolutely incredible. Look at all those circles, huh? So celebratory. Okay. So let's just pull out a little bit so we can go up and down the coast here. All right. Let's just peek on this one. What's this? This was 2 hours ago, guys. And that's out of Akita, Japan. I'm glad I can pronounce it. That was 137 km deep, guys. Okay, look at that. And it was a 2.5 blast, okay, that they blew it up at. Okay, let's go ahead and head back in here. And just for the heck of it, let's see if we can zoom in just a little bit and see. Right out in the tree line. Okay, right out in the tree line. Looks like there's your water next to it. And I wish I could read Japanese, but I can't. I can do a lot of things, but I can't read Japanese. Let's peek at this one here. This was 5 days ago, 105 km. So they're working really deep, you guys. They're working really deep. Do you see why there's a lot to clean up? We'll be cleaning up dams and blowing them up for a long time to come. Okay, there are so many. They've been doing this for thousands of years. Okay. All right, just so you can get a look, I backed out. Take a look at those tracks. Isn't that just incredible? Look at that, you guys. Absolutely incredible. We are just in the finale of this war right now, and it's so beautiful to see. We've waited a long.
Folks, I gotta interject something here. I know we've only got an hour or 1 minute and 41 seconds left in this video, but what bothers me about this is that it almost sounds like she's equating every single earthquake on that map with being a dumb base. That's not possible. It's not probable or anything else. So this is why we have to be careful when we're looking at information like this. The stuff that she showed us in the States that were all 10 kilometers. Yeah, okay, I got it. I believe it. But this stuff, I mean, this area of the world always has tons and tons of earthquakes. And it has forever, and it will have forever, at least until Yeshua comes back. And anyway, I just wanted to point that out. It's there are things like this that make me wonder. Okay, here we go. Let's finish up this video.
Time to see something like this. We're very special and lucky to be alive at this point in time. Everybody who is alive is very well chosen to witness this. And it absolutely is historical. It will never happen again, and it's never happened before us. So please sit back and, as much as you can get your hands on watching what's going on with this war, keep up with your intel people listening that are reporting, and keep a watch. So let's go ahead and go to Taiwan here. All right. Look at that, you guys, beginning to be nice and quiet. Remember how big the bubbles were for the last 10 days, the round circles? They just have this area still. This seems to be a main hub there on the east side of the island there. Very interesting. But it's coming to a halt, and they now have been given their peace back. Peace. No, it is not a satanic symbol anymore because we are taking it back, boys. I hope you guys enjoyed this report for Dumbs and Underground and Orange Screen and Weather. And if you guys have any questions or comments, please put it down in into the comment section there, and I'll surely do my best to answer you. And you guys have yourselves a good afternoon. This is Wendy, News Force, over and out.
So, folks, what'd you think? Well, I gave my thoughts during the whole thing that was going on here. It's I think for the most part there's a lot to it. That's true. And but yeah, to look at all the circles in Japan and say that they're all dumb, that's just not it's not happening for me, you know. But in either case, we know that they are being destroyed and that there's one back on the East Coast. It's called Mount Weather, and for the longest time it had been a government base. I think, but the White Hats finally got a hold of it and took it over. And that's the place that would send out the emergency alert systems. Had they been, excuse me, had they been ever needed. And they may maybe have be sending them out someday soon. Who knows? But yeah, so that was big White Hat and also a FEMA compound. So FEMA's ugly. FEMA is evil, folks. Evil, evil, evil. Um, they go to every disaster just to plunder and plunder and steal and to kill. That's it. So anyway, well, I hope you were enlightened. I hope that you enjoyed the show tonight. And I don't know. I like stuff like this. I can't help it. I just love it. Um, so I'm going to go ahead and end it here. And we will be back next Tuesday. And we'll start off a new year together, okay? Sound good? All right. Hey, may Yahweh bless you and keep you. May he make his face to rise upon you and be gracious unto you. May he watch your going out, your coming in, your rising up, and your lying down. May he grant you the peace that passes all understanding. And may he reveal to you something this week or next week also. Uh, Reveal something to you that will help you to cope better, will help you to understand better what's going on in this stinking world, and to help you to be more reassured that Yeshua is coming back real soon. We pray this in Yeshua's holy name. Amen and amen. Okay, folks, I'm out of here. Have a wonderful weekend. Happy New Year. And just go out and be safe, okay? Don't go out at night with all these idiots that are out there driving drunk, okay? I want my audience safe. I want you to come back next week and watch me again, okay? And I want you to have the wisdom that he's given you, that you use that wisdom to know when it's safe to go out or not. And New Year's Eve is not a safe time to go out. I don't go out at all New Year's Eve, so that doesn't matter to you, I guess. But hey, I'm still here. So, all right, folks, say God bless, and we'll talk to you soon. All right. Oh, and real quick, I wanted to thank a particular supporter. I'm not going to say her name, but she really made a donation this week that really helped out, and God bless her, man. She's always been there and to support, to give advice, and to help out when help is needed. So you know who you are. Thank you so much. All right. Good night, folks.